Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 221 based on novel. So let's start. Fu Riluo's heart moved slightly, and he dissipated the chi of pure yin that plagued Zhehuali's body, releasing him from the frozen state. Zhehuali was still in shock when he suddenly saw the ground folding up. In the next instant, he was back beside Fu Riluo, who had been over 10 miles away. It was obvious that Fu Riluo had folded up space. Butcher and the rest were astonished. Fu Riluo's abilities were much greater than what they had imagined. These kinds of abilities meant that he was no mere true devil. Fu Riluo's left face looked at Zhehuali, and he said calmly, "Victory and defeat are common in war. The true victory and defeat is life and death, so as long as you don't die, you haven't lost completely. Do you understand?" Zhehuali sheathed the demon knife on his back. He bowed and said, "Disciple understands." Fu Riluo was happy. "Your Dao heart is trained well, so your success will definitely surpass that of Luo Wushuang in the future." Behind Butcher and the rest, Cripple was overjoyed and patted Qin Mu heavily on the shoulder. "Mua, you didn't throw Grandpa Cripple's face. That move earlier was truly sinister, hiding a blade in your smile while you injured him with a hidden arrow. As expected of one that's been taught by me. When I saw your smile just then, even I couldn't help shivering." Qin Mu hurriedly said humbly, "It's all because of Grandpa Cripple's good teaching. If it wasn't for Grandpa Cripple, I wouldn't have defeated them. In regards to hiding a blade in my smile, I can at most rank number 2. Grandpa Cripple is still the best in the world." Cripple stroked his mountain goat beard and laughed loudly. He was pretty pleased with himself. Def sneered and said, "The men of today have sadly degenerated." Lu Li paid no attention to Butcher and the rest that had nervous expressions. She looked at the divine city that Def had drawn and suddenly said with a smile, "Fu Riluo, have you seen through the real and the fake?" Fu Riluo turned his head, and his 3 faces looked at the god city. After a moment, he said, "I can't see through it. May you enlighten me?" "Look at the souls of the gods there," Lu Li said with a smile. Fu Riluo was astonished and sought enlightenment sincerely. "How do I look at the souls?" Butcher, mute, and blind knew that things were going bad and gradually moved back. Def's face changed slightly, and he instantly knew that Lu Li had seen through their ruse. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. His painting could pass off as genuine, which meant that no flaws could be seen in the world in the painting he had created, and even the connection to reality was seamless as well. However, he couldn't create souls. Lu Li had to be a strong practitioner from Yudu with extremely deep attainments in the spells of the soul to have seen through the marvel of Def's painting. Everyone's palms went sweaty, and they surrounded Qin Mu while they continuously fell back. Their unease grew stronger and stronger. Fu Riluo and Lu Li seemed to pay no attention to them, allowing them to leave. Lu Li turned around and raised her slender jade hand to draw a circle in the air. Light leaked out from it, and it became a huge and bright mirror that floated in the sky. "Respectable king, please look at the scene in the mirror." Fu Riluo did so, and what the mirror reflected was the majestic god city in front of them. It included Butcher, Qin Mu, Granny Sai, and the rest in front of it. Some of their souls were standing in front of the southern heavenly gate of the celestial palaces. Some of them were on the divine bridge, and there was even the soul of a person standing in life and death realm. Under his feet was the dark Yudu. But what was weird was that the god city in the mirror was only a huge pit. Not only did the god city not exist, but even the gods and the army of 1,000,000 weren't there. However, Butcher and the rest that were retreating toward the god city could be seen. The mirror showed all of their souls. Fu Riluo took a look at himself, and he saw his three-headed true form standing among the devil celestial palaces. He was a devil god with 3 heads. The 3 faces were only an illusion created after he had cultivated the 3 heads into one. Fu Riluo looked at Qi Jiui, who was reflected in the mirror, and his reflection was that of a 9-headed phoenix that was bathing in blazing golden light and divine fire. He looked sacred and extraordinary. Zhehuali, when reflected in the mirror, was a normal human, except for the demon knife behind his back. It was a one-eyed demon beast full of a terrifying demon eye. It was extremely frightening. Yet the most terrifying one in the mirror was still Qin Mu. The youth had 3 eyes and was glowing with crimson light. He was incomparably huge, and his 3 eyes looked over, seemingly having detected him peeking. Fu Riluo felt his soul tremble, and his chest started to ache again. Lu Li hurriedly turned the mirror away from Qin Mu at the rest. She said, "Are you clear now?" The mirror was pointed in the direction of the devil camp. A few devil experts behind them looked toward it and saw the souls of the devil gods and devils in the mirror. Fu Riluo's disciple, Shu Yi, was slightly stunned when he saw a slightly strange soul among the devils. That person was actually standing among the celestial palaces. Furthermore, his soul was tattered and filled with patches that seemed to be stitched together from numerous people's souls. Shu Yi was about to look in detail when Lu Li had pulled back the mirror. Could I have seen wrongly? Shu Yi was bewildered. Fu Riluo shuddered, and his voice was hoarse when he spoke. Those 3 eyes. Sealed by Earth Count, Lu Li said with a smile. You can forget about coveting him. Your aim is just Supreme Emperor Heaven. Fu Riluo composed himself and said solemnly, I can finally see the true face of the God City. It was creating flowers from emptiness, creating reality, and passing off fake as genuine. With the painting as a world, they connected fake and real, making it hard to distinguish the two. To create gods and all things with the painting path, the person's attainments have to have reached the peak of the painting path. His voice reached the ears of Deaf, Granny Sai and the rest. For Dao friends to have been able to trick me and stop my devil army for several days, giving Supreme Emperor Heaven time to take a breather and prepare, even if all of you die, you can be proud of yourselves. The expressions of everyone in the group changed drastically. They saw the space around them warp. Even though they were moving back, the distance between them and Fu Riluo was decreasing. We're done for, done for. Cripple's expression was ashen as he muttered softly to himself. The green bull under Chancellor B.A. Shan's leg moved angrily and sprinted furiously toward the God City. However, no matter how fast he sprinted, he got farther and farther away while getting closer to Fu Riluo. The green bull hurriedly stopped, not daring to move anymore. Respectable king, I only want Qin Fengqing. Hand him to me, and I'll give you a Supreme Emperor Heaven. Lu Li said with a smile. Don't worry, now that I've seen the fake from the real, they cannot run anymore. Fu Riluo took a step and walked toward everyone. The air instantly warped violently, and everyone involuntarily got closer to him. Butcher shouted angrily and swung the knife to slash toward the sky and the ground, trying to sever the warped space. Yet his knife light was instantly warped and vanished without a trace. Suddenly though, the sky trembled violently, and Fu Riluo stopped. He raised his head to look at the sky, and his expression filled with astonishment. Lu Li also hurriedly raised her head in astonishment. In the sky, incomparably thick beams of light shone down and connected to the ground. Next, it transformed into turbulent blood light. Huge but broken planets suddenly squeezed out from space and appeared in the sky of Supreme Emperor Heaven. Then a second dilapidated planet appeared, followed by a third. An astonishing sight appeared in the sky. A huge land pressed down on the bunch of planets that had suddenly appeared in the sky above Supreme Emperor Heaven. The appearance of the vast land in the sky made Fu Riluo trembled, and he forgot to control his divine art. In the devil's main camp, the soldiers of the devil race raised their heads and looked at the vision in the sky with blank expressions. Not only them, almost all of the life forms in the entire Supreme Emperor Heaven, no matter if they were human or devil, slave or god, or even strange beasts, and insects living in the mountains and sea. They all raised their heads at this very moment and looked at the huge planets that were pressing down from the sky and also at that magnificent and boundless land. That was a sight so shocking that it couldn't be described with words. It was a magnificent sight that they had never seen before in their lives. The huge planets were so low that it seemed they could be touched with their hands. The mountains on the land were like hanging sharp precipice hanging down. The sea in the land was like a sapphire blue gem. What was even stranger was even though it was hanging above Supreme Emperor Heaven, the water from the sea didn't fall and flow into Supreme Emperor Heaven. Fu Riluo's body trembled and he forgot to seize Butcher, Qin Mu and the rest. Qin Mu looked at it in detail, and those beams of light that were connecting that land with Supreme Emperor were from tall sacrificial altars, and these sacrificial altars were as astonishing as the mountains. Even if one raised their head from Supreme Emperor Heaven, they could faintly see. Qin Mu cried out, "That is Luofu Heaven." His voice broke the astonishment and silence in the surrounding. The hearts of Butcher, Granny Sai, and the rest trembled and Cripple hurriedly asked, "Mua, what kind of damned place is Luofu Heaven?" "The world of the devil race, which is also the world of where these devils in Supreme Emperor Heaven resides in." Qin Mu took out teleportation flags and quickly stabbed around them. "I have suffered from Fu Riluo's pupil divine art and got seized by him. In his illusion, I became him and I saw Luofu Heaven before. That world is basically almost destroyed. The devil race suddenly pulled their Luofu Heaven over. What are they preparing to do?" Granny Sai was rather puzzled and she said with a low voice, "Could they have planned to let all devil enter Supreme Emperor Heaven?" Blind's gaze was deep and he shook his head. "Granny, you can't see the details in Luofu Heaven. This Luofu Heaven isn't moved over by the devil race. There are still 20 and more gods on the sacrificial altars, so it should be done by them. Furthermore, they aren't moving Luofu Heaven to Supreme Emperor Heaven, they are." His voice was slightly excited. "They are blood sacrificing Luofu Heaven. Blood sacrificing Luofu Heaven." Everyone was astonished, and just as they were about to check in detail, Qin Mu had already executed the teleportation flag, and the huge flags swirled to send them into that god city. Right in the instant Qin Mu executed the teleportation flag, the devil's main camp was also in chaos, as a true devil got attacked by surprise. That was a true dragon that flew out from the youth's waist and attacked when everyone was looking up the sky in a daze. That divine dragon injured that true devil severely. Meanwhile, the movement of the devil youth was strange and he came to the back of that true devil as though he was floating. His divine art was even stranger, and after a series of attacks, that true devil was chopped in 8 chunks. The main camp was in chaos, and before the devil gods could even react, they saw that devil youth taking out a chest, and the chest automatically opened to swallow the chopped devil god up. That devil youth raised the chest and stepped on the divine dragon to rise into the sky. Behind him, devil gods gave chase furiously. At the same time, light in the god city shook and the teleportation formation appeared. Before anyone people could come back to their senses, Qin Mu executed the teleportation flags again, and the light shone again, before the light even extinguished, sending everyone out of the city. He executed the teleportation repeatedly, and did it over and over again, until they finally escaped 400 to 500 miles away. Qin Mu's magic power was exhausted, and he swept his sleeves to keep the teleportation flag. "I can only teleport to here." Hu Linga said, "I know, it's Fatty Dragon that's too heavy." The dragon Chelin lowered his head in shame. Everyone hurriedly rushed towards Lee City, and on the way, they focused their gazes to look at the sky, but they still couldn't see too clearly. Yet in Blind's eyes, he could see the terrains of Luofu heaven. The lakes and the seas were all crumbling. Mountains crumbled and the sea vaporized. The rivers located in Luofu heaven were like twisting snakes that were squirming in midair. This sight was truly terrifying. Blood sacrificing the entire world made everyone felt that it was a spectacular yet sorrowful sight. At this moment, they heard a loud cry coming from the sky like the sorrowful cry of a whale in the sea. It was incomparably long-lasting, like the sorrowful cry of a world that was dying. Even though human emotions couldn't be heard from the cry, it still made people couldn't help tearing up. Even though that world was the world of the devil race, but every world was the mother of all life forms born there. When they heard the sorrowful cry of their dying mother, they made people couldn't help feeling the same way too. Luofu heaven isn't being pulled closer. Granny Sai suddenly came to a realization, and she hurriedly ran to Lee City with everyone. She said with a low voice, Luofu heaven is still at its original position. It's actually this power of blood sacrifice that had established access between Luofu heaven and Supreme Emperor heaven, making Luofu heaven seem to be above our head. Fu Riluo's heart was cold. He raised his head to look at his Luofu heaven that had raised him up. Even when Qin Mu had escaped, even when Xing'an had created havoc in the devil's main camp, he didn't bother to even take a look. Luofu heaven of the devil race transformed into pure energy in the blood sacrifice, and they were currently pouring into Supreme Emperor heaven. Saint Woodcutter has succeeded. He was abnormally clever, so he naturally knew who had done it. After Saint Woodcutter had taken a bet at Lee City, he had vanished for a period of time and didn't reappear until now. He must have been planning to take drastic measures, entering Luofu heaven, the old nest of the devils, to set up the sacrificial altars needed to sacrifice Luofu heaven. And now, Saint Woodcutter has already attained the means to sacrifice Luofu heaven. Luli was long used to this sight, as she has already long seen worlds after worlds being destroyed in her eyes. There were countless worlds that got destroyed in Yudu before and formed Earth Count's horns of 9 bends. Countless broken souls were wailing miserably in those worlds in pitch-black darkness. Capturing that brat with the surname Qin is more important. She immediately made a decision and rushed towards the direction where Qin Mu and the rest had teleported to. At this moment, Luofu heaven, which was sinking into destruction, suddenly stopped, and they suddenly heard a voice coming from the other world. Fu Riluo, do you want to stop the battle, or for Luofu heaven to be obliterated? Luli knew it was bad, and she turned her head to look at Fu Riluo. Fu Riluo's 3 faces were stupefied, and one of the face raised up to look at Luofu heaven. Fu Riluo's booming voice rang out, Heavenly Teacher, you and I will make a pact to temporarily stop the battle. We will make peace, and my devil race will split the world into 2 with the gods of your Supreme Emperor heaven. My devil race will take half of Supreme Emperor heaven, while the other half belongs to you. Since you have the weakness of my devil race by controlling Luofu heaven, you can also be at ease. All right. The sky was ripped apart, and Saint Woodcutter's face appeared in the sky. There was only the face and no ears. This face just suddenly appeared in the sky and looked down at Fu Riluo. His voice rumbled in the sky like heavenly thunder, make an oath to Earth Count. Fu Riluo said sternly, an oath to Earth Count. Butcher, Blind and the rest that were rushing towards Lee City furiously also saw this sight, and they also heard Saint Woodcutter and Fu Riluo's conversation. Granny Sai shook her head. Who is this foolish old man? He looks foolish, and to actually dare to make an oath to Earth Count with the respectable king of the devil race. He needs to be careful not to have even his underwear trick away by Fu Riluo. Everyone in disabled elderly village nodded their heads. Qin Mu said carefully, Granny, look at this face in the sky. Does it look similar to the face of Saint Woodcutter on the mural in our Saint Arrival Mountain? Granny Sai examined it, and she gave a shudder. Wasn't this face that of Saint Woodcutter? So it's the saint. Granny Sai showed off her beauty, and it was very charming when she smiled. In that case, he won't be at a disadvantage when making an oath-to-earth count with Fu Riluo. There are so many crafty people in Heavenly Saint cult, and they had all learned it from great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures, so, in terms of craftiness, this saint is our old ancestor. Everyone's mind was blank by her smile, and they just selectively forgot about Granny Sai scolding Saint Woodcutter, a foolish old man, involuntarily. Lu Li's gaze flickered, and she looked into the distance. She was about to chase after Qin Mu when Fu Riluo said calmly, "When this concerns the existence of my Luofu heaven, it's best for Dao friend Lu Li to not make any reckless move." Lu Li's beautiful brows frowned. This chance was rare, and she really wanted to seize Qin Mu, but she was also very afraid of that face in the sky. If she forcefully made a move, Fu Riluo might even make a move on her from being threatened, so she resisted herself. "Don't worry. I said I will bring this brat to you, so I won't eat my words," Fu Riluo said. Lu Li chuckled and said, "If you dare to eat your words, I can assist Supreme Emperor Heaven in getting rid of your devil race." Fu Riluo shook his head. "You won't. Heavenly Teacher is from founding Emperor Celestial Heaven. The grudge between the two of you is even great that your grudge to the devil race, it's impossible to resolve." Lu Li took a glance at the direction where Qin Mu and the rest had escaped, and she suppressed herself. She wasn't afraid of Fu Riluo or Saint Woodcutter, but if the both of them attacked her at the same time, she wouldn't have it easy. "However, I promise you I can definitely do it." Fu Riluo's front face was signing a pact of earth count with the face in the sky, while the face on the left was talking to Lu Li. "He has already suffered from my divine art, so no matter if it's a mirror or a water surface, he will still fall into my grasp." Only then did Lu Li place her heart down and said with a smile, "In regards to your art of space, I am indeed very impressed." Qi Jui frowned slightly and said, "So Provincial Governor, the agreement between you and I." Lu Li smiled at him sweetly, and it was so lovely and sweet that it was terrifying. With a rough voice, she said, "Whether or not I should lend Qin Mu to you will depend on what you plan to do. Even though young Master Qi is a noble of the celestial heavens, the sky is high and the emperor is far. Even His Majesty wouldn't be able to control the provincial governor that's in control of an area, right?" Qi Jui said with an unmoved expression, "I understand. If you lend me, I will give you benefits." Finally, Qin Mu and the rest hurried to Li City, and only then did they let out a sigh of relief. Li City was long stationed with soldiers and horses. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, True God Pang Yu and the rest were holding the lines. When they saw them hurrying back safely, only then were they at ease. Apothecary took out a mirror to tidy himself up to prevent him from losing his image. Qin Mu popped his head to take a look, and his expression changed drastically. His eyes stared at the mirror, and inside the mirror, Fu Riluo was walking towards him. Apothecary coincidentally kept the mirror, and he said with a smile, "Mua, you don't have any lesser mirrors than me, so why do you need to borrow mine?" Qin Mu shook his head and cried out, "Granny, I've suffered from the same move again." He talked about how he got kidnapped by Fu Riluo the previous time, and everyone in disabled elderly village revealed a look of disdain. Cripple sneered and said, "Mua, to fall at the same place twice, you have disappointed our teaching." Blind nodded his head. "I saw Mua is still young and too innocent." Apothecary sighed and said, "That's right, village chief, that old fogey always nags that Qin Mu is too innocent and is afraid of him losing out. His words have come true, to fall for the same thing twice." Cold sweat rolled down Qin Mu's forehead. "Stop saying cynical remarks. What should I do?" Mute did a few strokes and Deaf caught them in his eyes. He said, "This is simple, just don't look in the mirror, you aren't a little girl. Mute said that, not me. Apothecary took out the mirror and aimed it at Qin Mu to examine his reaction. He saw Qin Mu's eyes immediately going out of focus, as if there was a figure walking out from his eyes. He immediately kept the mirror and said, "It's easy not to look in the mirror, but what about washing his face? Or if he meets other people that shine their mirror at Qin Mu. He just needs to arrange a devil or a spy and use a mirror to shine at Qin Mu. Mu just need to take a look and he will fall into the move again." The divine arts practitioners that had submitted to the devils wouldn't be low in numbers. There's definitely not only Tianfengo. Butcher snatched the mirror from him and shone it at Qin Mu. Qin Mu's eyes went out of focus again, as he stared at the mirror. The body of a Fu Riluo walked over in his eyes, and was slightly closer than just now. Butcher jumped in shock, and hurriedly flipped the mirror over. Only then did the Fu Riluo in Qin Mu's eyes vanish. How powerful! Butcher couldn't help praising. Fu Riluo's divine art is truly strange, to actually be able to come out from Qin Mu's eyes. Why don't we just lure him out and gather a bunch of true gods to chop him to death? We will see how he terrorize you again. Qin Mu shook his head and said, "It's useless, he doesn't really appear. The mirror will only activate his divine art, and once the divine art is activated, he will pull me to his side. He won't appear in front of us at all." Butcher praised again, to actually be able to achieve such a step is truly remarkable. Mute snatched the mirror and also shone it at Qin Mu. Qin Mu involuntarily looked over, and the Fu Riluo in his eyes walked another distance closer. Mute hurriedly flipped the mirror over and said sternly, "Arbar." Blind hurriedly took over the mirror and planned to shine it at Qin Mu when Granny became furious and rewarded him with a punch on his head. She said angrily, "You old farts, if you shine some more, Mua is going to be taken away by that three-faced weird man." Blind was furious. "Granny, they had all shone, so why did you only beat me?" Granny Sai snatched the mirror away, and Cripple was waiting to try on one side. When he saw Granny Sai protecting her calf, he could only hold himself back. Granny Sai also wanted to shine the mirror at Qin Mu, but he was still her child that was raised up by him, so she could only resist the temptation. However, she always felt itchy and wanted to shine the mirror on him. In disabled elderly village, other than Cripple, the one with the most playful heart was her. If he can't look at the mirror, and he also can't pull Fu Riluo over, doesn't this mean that this divine art will remain forever in Mua's eyes? Everyone was out of ideas. Even though they all had remarkable abilities, Fu Riluo's divine arts were truly bizarre. They didn't know how to solve it. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and True God Pang Yu walked over. "Fellow Dao friends are back. We were still organizing the army, so it wasn't convenient to save you. May everyone pardon us." Imperial Preceptor always has ideas, maybe he can think of an idea. Everyone hurriedly told Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor about it, and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, "To actually have such a thing. Let me take a look." After saying so, he took out a mirror from his chest and planned to shine it at Qin Mu. Butcher, Blind and the rest had weird expressions. Even though Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was a middle-aged man, he was still handsome and well-dressed. It was obvious he paid attention to his appearance and also carried a mirror with him. Granny Sai clenched her fist tightly and was ready to hit Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's head. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor saw this situation, and he placed down his mirror while saying with a smile, "Dao friend Sai, if I don't activate the divine art in his eyes, how could I think of a method to break it? Please put aside your hostility." Granny Sai said, "Don't shine for too long." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor shone the mirror at Qin Mu, and he saw the figure of Fu Riluo, who was currently walking out from Qin Mu's eyes. He was astonished and hurriedly covered the mirror, while muttering irresolutely to himself, "Excellent divine art. This kind of divine art is imprinted in the eyes of cult master Qin. One would fall for it once they looked at him in the eye. Fu Riluo's divine art is actually remarkable to such an extent. Granny Sai hurriedly said, "Does Imperial Preceptor have any method to solve it?" Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor paced to and fro. He hesitated for a moment and said, "Why don't I take another look?" Granny Sai couldn't resist any longer, and gave a hard blow on his head. Everyone was stunned. Even Emperor Yang Feng didn't dare to hammer Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptors, had yet Granny Sai actually dared. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor accepted the beating calmly and said, "Dao friend Sai, it's still not enough for me to solve Fu Riluo's divine art with just a look. Maybe if I can have a few more looks, I might just be able to find the way to solve this." Granny Sai said coldly, "What if you can't?" Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said solemnly, "If in the morning I was to gain knowledge of the correct path, I will be able to die without regrets at sunset." Granny Sai was still not familiar with him, or else she would have kicked him away long ago like how she had done to Blind. She took a glance at true God Pang Yu and asked patiently, "The abilities of a true god are remarkable. You must have a method to solve this, right?" True God Pang Yu hesitated for a moment. He also has the intention of shining the mirror at Qin Mu, but he felt that it was difficult for him to escape the fist of this woman. If Imperial Preceptor can't, I also can't. I admire Imperial Preceptor's paths, skills and divine arts very much. Fu Riluo's attainments in divine arts are actually even higher than mine. It is especially so a divine art in the eyes. In terms of attainments in divine art, the one on par with Fu Riluo can only be Heavenly Teacher. You guys should be finding Heavenly Teacher. Qin Mu's heart stirred slightly. Saint Woodcutter indeed has remarkable abilities, so he just might be able to break Fu Riluo's divine art. Heavenly Teacher is now in Luofu heaven, it's not difficult to find him. True God Pang Yu hesitated for a moment. By right, I should be bringing you guys over, but now that the two armies are in a face-off, if the devil race doesn't withdraw their army, I will still have to stay here. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's heart was rather moved and he wanted to meet this saint. However, he was also impeded. He didn't have the time to head to Luofu heaven. The world barrier between Luofu heaven and Supreme Emperor heaven was already very thin, so it wasn't hard to go to Luofu heaven. When the devil race attacked Supreme Emperor heaven, it was also the devil gods that had torn open the world barrier, allowing devils to flow in continuously in Supreme Emperor heaven. Granny Sai was delighted and she said with a smile, "I'll follow Mua to see the first saint of my heavenly devil cult." She couldn't conceal her excitement. Saint Woodcutter imparting his teachings under the tree, and imparting the scriptures on the rock to Founding Master. Founding Master established a cult, and created Heavenly Saint cult. Afterward, the cult master of every generation was the disciple of Saint Woodcutter, and they need to experience his teachings on the rock once. To the disciples of Heavenly Saint cult, Saint Woodcutter was an existence that was high above, requiring everyone to look up and worship him. To be able to meet this legend was a huge dream to the disciples of the cult. Qin Mu hesitated for a moment, and he looked at the excited Granny Sai. Finally, he still decided not to tell her the truth. Saint Woodcutter is the originator of Heavenly Saint cult, but he had never heard of Heavenly Saint cult before. Even him imparting his scriptures on the rock was only a moment of interest, imparting his teachings to Founding Master. If Granny Sai knows about this, she will definitely be dejected. He thought to himself. True God Pang Yu said, "My Supreme Emperor Heaven had once attacked back at Luofu Heaven, and I was the commander then. However, the counterattack had failed, but I still had some understanding of the terrain there. There are swamps everywhere in Luofu Heaven, and there are even mirrors formed by shattered pieces of space." Granny Sai took out a white silk ribbon to cover Qin Mu's eyes. She said, "This will do. Mua, You can release your primordial spirit out. Use the eyes of your primordial spirit to look. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor hurriedly said, that won't do. Fu Riluo's divine art is also reflected onto his primordial spirit. If his primordial spirit looks at a mirror, it will also activate Fu Riluo's divine art. Granny Sai said in astonishment, Fu Riluo actually has such kind of ability. Mua, release your primordial spirit. Qin Mu listened to her, and his primordial spirit was projected out to stand on an auspicious cloud that floated behind his head. Granny Sai used the mirror to shine at Qin Mu, and Qin Mu's primordial spirit looked towards the mirror. The eyes of his primordial spirit instantly went out of focus as he stared at the mirror. Fu Riluo's figure appeared in his eyes and he walked out. At this moment, Fu Riluo has already walked to the position of Qin Mu's pupils. Granny Sai examined in detail, and she kept her mirror back with satisfaction on finally accomplishing a load on her mind. She said with a smile, True God Pang Yu, how do we go to Luofu heaven? I'll open up space and send you guys over. Qin Mu's eyes were wiped black, and he could only use his other senses to feel the surroundings. His naked eyes couldn't see the surroundings, so Granny Sai led him by the hand and pulled him forward. True God Pang Yu tore open the space and revealed another world. Luofu isn't like Supreme Emperor Heaven, there's danger in every corner of Luofu Heaven, you guys need to be careful. Granny Sai held onto his hand and rushed into the crack excitedly. The Dragon Qilin and Hu Linga also wanted to follow over, but True God Pang Yu had already closed the crack in space so they could only give up. Apothecary said solemnly, let us go to Fengju from Great Ruins to find village chief, we can think of ideas together as well. Linga, you frequently go to Fengju through between life and death, you shall lead the way. Hu Linga acknowledged and she said to the disappointed Dragon Qilin, young master has gone to Luofu heaven, fatty dragon, follow us to Fengju. The Dragon Qilin's heart was empty and he shook his head to say, I want to stay here and wait for Cult Master to be back. He had gone in a hurry, and didn't have time to make my rations. Hu Linga said with a smile, with Grandpa Apothecary around, how would you have a lack of ration? Young Master's art of healing and art of pills are all learned from Grandpa Apothecary. The Dragon Qilin was overjoyed and he immediately shook his body, revealing his true form that was 120 yards. He smiled apologetically and said, Old Masters, please come on to Little Dragon's back. Little Dragon's footsteps are rather fast and I can bring Old Masters towards Fengju. I have also been to Fengju before. Cripple, Butcher, Blind and the rest climbed onto his back and Butcher said with a smile, I had originally said to let this fatty go onto the table with the hen dragons in the village during New Year. He could be a main dish as well. Never would I expect him to be even more sensible than the hen dragons. Those hen dragons have rebelled. The last time I returned to the village, they pecked me until my entire face was bloody. Apothecary said with a smile, what pills does fatty dragon eat? How much do you eat? The Dragon Qilin said in a hurry, Little Dragon eats Scarlet Fire Spirit pills, Fire Element Divine Vitality pills and Water Element Divine Vitality pills. 1 meal I need to eat. 1 bucket. 1 bucket every meal. Apothecary was astonished and cried out, 3 kinds of spirit pills, that's 3 buckets. 3 meals every day, that's 9 buckets. Your appetite ain't small, eh? You actually didn't turn Mua poor from your eating habits. The Dragon Qilin was also shocked. He was surprised and delighted. He had originally wanted to push his luck and eat 1 bucket of spirit pills a day, never did he expect it to become 9 buckets. Apothecary did some calculation and he said, 9 buckets of spirit pills is a little much, but luckily, I have the money so I can still feed you. Blind was very envious. There were many rich people in the village. Apothecary helps to treat officials and nobles so his money flowed in endlessly. Numerous women of noble family came forward upon hearing his reputation. Def's paintings were also like hot cakes. Butcher sold meat daily and Mute forged ironwares daily so they could also have enough to survive. There was no need to talk about cripple. Meanwhile, Granny Sai's Sai family was in charge of Heavenly Saint Cult's treasury, so she naturally didn't need to worry about having not enough to eat and drink. Only Blind had to survive by relying on fortune-telling, so his life was slightly bitter and hard. This was why he had slight resentment to the wealthy people in the village. He thought to himself, luckily village chief is poorer than me, what a pity he's dead. Hu Ling's eyeballs rotated randomly, but she didn't say the truth. She thought to herself, Fatty Dragon is going to eat so much spirit pills in a day, young master will definitely be in for a shock when he comes back. I also like to see how fat he will get. In Luofu heaven, Qin Mu raised his hand secretly to peel off the golden willow leaf that was covering his third eye. Granny Sai smacked his hand down and nagged, this eye of yours is weird, don't peel it off recklessly. Qin Mu argued, Granny, I can't see anything and it's also not convenient for me to walk. I can't always let Granny lead me, can I? What if we were in a dangerous situation? I will only be a burden to Granny. You still can't take it off. Granny Sai pondered over it and said with a smile, but what you said is also right, you can move conveniently if you can't see, let me help you take it down. However, you aren't allowed to execute Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique. After saying that, she pinched the golden willow leaf and peeled the leaf down. On the heart of Qin Mu's brows, his eyelids parted to two sides and revealed his third eye. It rotated right and left to look at the surroundings. This video will end here.